everyone, how are you doing? Aaron, Cameron, we had someone here. Doctor, do you want to come into frame, Dr. Panel? Come into frame, Dr. Panel. Hey, I was showing Dr. Panel how everything works, explaining Mubot and everything. So good to see you. And Dr. Panel, if you have questions, let me know. But we were explaining everything. Funny story. Oh my gosh, that was a calc exam. Oh, you asked him the Z-score? Oh, you see right there. Cameron, we're going to throw you 1,000 points. You should have said, what's your Z-score? You should have said, what's the Z-score? And then if he says what, you should have said, if you integrated the normal curve, then what area would be underneath it? Because that would give you the percentile. If you integrated the normal curve, because that's actually what you're doing integration of the curve because there's the area underneath, right? That's integration. So you should have said, if you integrate the, yeah, if it was -2. If you could answer it, it might be +2. If you can't answer it, it might be -2. So integration of the normal curve, area underneath the curve is how we do it. You actually, if you want to do it by hand, you have to do calculus. Sometimes people say, can I solve these answers by hand for the test? I'm like, well, kinda. You could integrate the normal curve, but I mean, I don't want to do that. I don't want to integrate the normal curve. You probably still need a calculator to do the integration. But good stuff. I was just showing Dr. Panel the whole, everything of the whole, everything gets going. I got, I don't know, I got between the 25th to 75th during the IQR. And really great work. You know what I can do? And I got clearance from Terry right here to do this. So shout outs to Terry Higgins. We got a lot of great ideas, and Terry's been working super hard. Skyrim is my all-time favorite game. 4K hours. You might have me beat on that, Cameron. So that's awesome right there. Like, Skyrim is such a good game, and my wife and I are considering getting a Xbox One to play. What is the new space one? Stargate? Stargate, is it? No, that's a show, isn't it? That's a show. Star Ocean is another game. But we're considering Starfield. By the lords, by the lords. That guy from, is that what he says? He's like, the champion! That was really cool in the preview when they showed him from Skyrim. Your brother loves it? Yeah, I bet it's really cool. People blasted that other game that was like star-based stuff. Elder Scrolls 6 will be playable when I'm 80. Do you know when Skyrim came out? The release date for it is the easiest release date to remember. For 100 points, who knows? I'm releasing the exam scores right now as we talk. Who knows the release date for Skyrim? It came out when I was in grad school. 11/11/11. That's the easiest one to remember. 11/11/11. So easy to remember that. And that's when we had all those repeat years. It was kind of fun. Like when we were like 12/12/12. It's 12/12/12. But we had like, I think this year, did we have 1, 2, 3? Oh, because it was 23. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, 01, 2, 3, like January 23. And when we get to 34, it can be 1, 2, 3, 4. Ah! And hopefully I'm around when we get to like 30. No, wait, I'll never see. I'll just see that. Back in the day, there was, I think it was Eternal Darkness is a really good game for the GameCube. Eternal Darkness, I think if you set it to May 6th, January, February, March, April, May, June 6th, 2006, I think Eternal Darkness did something pretty crazy. GTA 6 and Elder Scrolls 6 will never happen at that point. I think, aren't they talking new GTA? We just had we're on GTA 4, we're going for GTA 5 right now. What's the max points right now? Where if we pass, did we get our own? Oh, we'll start that after the second test. So good question right there. Jennifer, good to see you. We can start some stuff. We will start naming messages, or we'll start. If you are here and you got 100, I'll name a level after you. If you are here, I'm gonna post grades, and as long as you're okay with saying that, you could message me if you want elsewhere, but we might have some people in chat who got hundreds. Did you see your grades now? I'm posting them as we speak. So they've been talking about GTA 6, is it? Yeah, it's GTA 6. Because I think I played GTA 4 a lot. Vice City was Vice City 4? Vice City was 4. I'm trying to think through video game knowledge. Vice City was 4, and then 5 came out. 5 is, like, I think, the highest selling video game of all time. Man, we got some awesome points right here. So wait, what other office hours did you go to, Cameron? Oh, because Cameron has more points than you? Is it Cameron has 26 hours? Oh, wow. You attend anything, you get the points, you get the time. Good work there, Cameron. So we'll start up some chapter 7 here in a moment, probably start up some regression. I go to everything. Cameron, let's throw everyone 1,000 points right here. I just like that people are here, and we'll just go crazy on the points. It's like Pokemon Go, where the later levels are really hard to get to. So if you come to the end of the class, you're getting more points. Well, maybe we'll do it for the highest grade. The highest grade here gets a level. So as long as you want to say it, and congratulations, Emma. That is amazing right there. I'm probably leave this page because I'm on the page with the grades. But congratulations. That is, I mean, there's not many students who scored higher than that. I mean, like, there's a few, but like you're in the top. Nice. Wow. Congratulations. That is awesome. Great work. There's so many. You just make an error on one or two. I probably would make a 97 or 98 on the test. The people who got hundreds. Amazing job. So really good job right there. Math is my weak link, so I'll take all I can get not to ruin. Well, congratulations. You got it, Jennifer. Good work right there. It is a tough class, and just keep working. The thing is, here's the thing. If you get hundreds on the homeworks and the quizzes, we're going to throw out 1,000 points for positivity. If you get 100 points on all, and we'll throw out those during class too, so show up to class. If you get hundreds on all the homeworks and the quizzes, you only really need to make B's on the test. Does that make sense? Now, the next tests are going to be a little tougher. The office hours were great, plus the Kahoot. Did you see any questions like an ordinal quantitative variable is something that is put into ascending or descending order? Only like 58% of people got that right. An ordinal quantitative variable, an ordinal quantitative, only like 58% of people got that right. You saw that and you were like, false. Did you see? I saw at least 10 questions from office hours and reviews, yeah. I think the answers are posted now, double check, or maybe the answers are a little bit later to release because we might have some people who had things come up that we need to make sure they take the test. They might be released, but the scores are released now. Did you see anything that says correlation can do this, or outliers can do this to correlation? Did you see anything that said outliers can to a correlation? Anything that said outliers can to a correlation, like outliers can make a strong correlation weak, outliers can make a weak correlation strong, and then you just instantly marked what? True, boom, 3 points. So I really want you to know that when we're in class, and we'll start up some work here in a moment, but we will do things that will make you get points. You will be able to tell answers to the test when you get to the test. I saw outliers and correlation. I said, you said that right there. You're like, and then you were like, yeah. I saw the ordinal on I never saw, yeah. Because it randomly selects your questions from a pool of questions, which are all of kind of similar difficulty. So I mentioned probably, like, here's the thing. Let me do this. Watch this. I am going to show you, and I'll show this during class. I'm going to bring up the test. But sorry, Tara, I'm going to show one question. Not that the students couldn't. I can't remember my password. Oh my gosh. Oh. There we go. I logged my Pearson. I bet I got flagged a million times. I saw a question that I missed on the Canvas content, but I forgot the right answer and freaked. I thought it was a No, Emma, that's all right. That's all right. That's all right. And then if you notice, a lot of Canvas content is on there too. So write down every Canvas content. Here's a tip. You ready? We'll name this section of the video tips for the test. So let's put right here tips for the test for anyone who comes back and watches this. So we'll get a little serious. Tips for the test. You ready? Tip number 1, anything on the Kahoot, put on a flashcard. Any question on the Kahoot, put on a flashcard, because I usually take questions from the test, a few of them, and put them into the Kahoot. As you saw, I looked to the questions people miss, like an ordinal quantitative variable is something that's been put in ascending to descending order. Ordinal is not quantitative, it's categorical, so that's false. And so we go over that during the Kahoot, and we mentioned why, because ordinal variables are categorical, like nominal is categorical. Quantitative can be continuous or discrete. So notes like that too, you could put like quantitative variables are actual real numbers, which was also on the test. So you want to go to the Kahoot, write down the questions, but tip number 2 is do the same for Canvas content. Take your Canvas content, I think you can take it twice or maybe use it thrice, I could look, but take the Canvas content the multiple times, even if you make 100 on it, take it again. Because why would you take Canvas content again even if you aced it? Why would you take Canvas content again even if you aced it? You got a 10 out of 10, why would you take it again? Yeah, and then we'll do linear regression right after this. In 3 minutes, let's do linear regression. We'll do that. Thank you right there. Has different questions, different practice, and then you can see it when you're reviewing, and you can put those, and they're the most likely things to be on the test. As you saw with the normal curve stuff, they were like literally how Canvas content looks. So a lot of people are like, wait, are we gonna use the applet? And I'm like, it's gonna look like Canvas content. It'll look just like Canvas content. The same way will go for future tests. If you wanna know what test questions look like, it'll look like Canvas content. So that's tip number 2 right there. And tip number 3 is start watching the speedrun videos early. Start watching speedrun videos early to help yourself out. And I'm going to do this right here. I'm going to go to the quiz statistics. We're going to do one thing right here. I'm going to show you one question from the test. One question. And so I'm bringing up the test right here. I didn't like the office hours with the Pearson reviews. Oh, yeah. It's tough because the Pearson really does a good job of auto-grading stuff. So some Pearson questions are really good, and then some go into detail that I don't like. So doing all the Pearson like right before is decent, but I will focus your attention on what you need to know. Does that make sense? Like, I will always focus us before the test on, like, especially the week leading up to it, I'll be like, here's all the knowledge you have. Here's how we're going to test you on it. So I do a little teaching to the test. Only a little teaching to the test. Okay, so just so you know, I'm going to close my eyes here. So I am going to scroll through the questions. You ready? I'm wondering, because I know some of the questions I did mention around. Yeah, and then take a look at that when you see it. So I am scrolling this. I am scrolling the screen, and I'm turning my head, and I'm stopping. I'm not touching the mouse now, so there's nothing funny going on here. I'm zooming in on the screen, and I'm going over to the main screen and showing you one question. And I probably got one of the easiest questions there is. What would you draw right here? What would you draw on this to get this question right? Almost everyone got this right. It's left skew. And I think because we got a thing in our class. You draw your monster man right there. You know the monster man. You draw your monster man, you put his face right there, and he's like, ah, monster man right there, you get it right. Once again, so you can see I'm not playing funny games here, and I didn't just go to like the easiest question on the exam. That is one of the easiest questions. I'm going to blank the screen right here so you can't see everything. Oh, now you can't see me. Ugh. Oh, wait, I'm above the classes over screen. Let me do that. There we go. Okay. So I'm scrolling the wheel again. No, I got to click in on it. So I'm not scrolling the wheel. Okay, now I'm scrolling the wheel. So I'm scrolling the wheel. You want this question? Here's another question. Well, let me not look. All right, I paused. Not looking, not touching. And now we're going to unblank the screen. I will have to scroll down a tiny bit because I'm kind of between questions right now. So let me undo this. I'm between questions. That one right there looks to be the z-score of this person right here. What is the actual value? That's a little bit tougher. We did some of those where we turn values back into z-scores. Hey, Colin, good to see you there. We need to talk. Say hey. We'll talk sometime. Colin, former student from Disney right now. Awesome job, Colin. Colin. Awesome job. Good seeing you there in the chat. A 2005 study. So think about this one right here. What percent of adults are expected to weigh above 150? So did we ever work questions like this where I showed you a diagram like this? Did I ever show you a graphic like this where we had the curve shaded? This is just like right before the test, right? Now this is a tougher one where only about 68% of people got it right. I can see the percent who got it right here, 68%. But here's the thing. If this is 33% shaded, right? 33% is shaded here. Then how much is total outside? How much is total outside? How much is total outside? If 33 is inside, what is outside? If 33 is inside, 67 is outside. Now let's be nice and just call it 33 on either side, right? So if 33 is inside, 33 is on either side. So how much is above this point right here? So if 33 is inside, 33 is above, and 33 is below, then how much would be above this point over here? Which kind of is the same answer, right? Because 33 inside, 67 outside, and when you go from here over, there you go. And if you said 66, or we count either one right there. And then we also did the decimal if you did decimal. So we try to make sure the test does these things. So hopefully that would be one that would be pretty quick that you would get. And ironically, 67% of people got it right. Ah! Okay, it is time to go back. Okay, let's do some regression right here because that's going to be a tougher chapter. Are you ready, everyone, to do some regression? Let's do some regression. I'm going to pull up the assignment. Should we do all of Chapter 7 homework? I think we can get that done. Chapter 7 homework, just get it done. Chapter 7 homework, no more. And then we'll be ready for class, understand a little bit about regression, and we'll do some examples with our data. Probably have to convert some of it. Might be able to convert some of it pretty quickly, but do some chapter 7. Good work right there. But I want to point out that what we do is we practice things that will be on the test. So when you're in class and you're answering questions, you are getting direct practice for the test. You are getting direct, like, seeing test questions, knowing how to do them, and I'll try to make example test questions or fake test questions that model what you would be doing on the test. So everything I come up with, I look at the test and I think, how can I reword this and give you practice that directly relates? So I'm gonna do a little bit of teaching right here. Let me mark the video as we get ready to do chapter 7 homework. And so we're gonna kind of teach the topic and do the whole homework. So Stat 201, chapter 7 homework, question 1. Let's go do it right here. Okay, so now we are here. Determine if the following statements are true or false. To choose the best linear model, choose the linear model that passes through the most data points on a scatter plot. Oh my gosh. Okay. You might think this is a good idea, but what we're doing right here is we're fitting data, we're fitting a model to data. So here's what it looks like. Here's what it looks like what we're doing. We've got data. Now, which of these lines looks better? Hint. Does the blue line look better? Or does the red line look better? Which of those lines looks like it's a better line that goes through the data? Like that is a better... Well, the red line goes through more of the data points. Everyone's saying red line. I try to make it... See, now, I'll tell you why. I could go into very much detail on this. Let me make it a little more obvious. We don't fit the line that goes through the most data points. What we actually do, if we put, like, let's say we put a point here, point here, point here, point here, and let's say I ask you, oh, I have an idea, better idea. Put a point here. And what do you think is a better model for this data? This blue line or the red line? Which of this is a better model for this data? The blue line or the red line? Which of this is a better model that is the relationship the data has? The blue line. So the red line goes through more of the data points, but the blue line gets as close as it can to all the points. This is called reducing the error. In a regression, the error is how far the line is away. And we try to reduce this error. It's actually a reduction in the sum of the squared error, but I don't want to go into that much detail right now. But the line tries to get as close as it can to all the points at once. It's not trying to go through points like this red line did, where it went through some points. It's trying to equally treat all the points as though it's like, I want to go through the middle of the data. Does that make sense? So the blue line is called the line of best fit for the data. Did everyone hear that? That is called the line of what for 100 points? That line is the line that what fits the data because it gets as close as it can to all the points, which means it might go through some. It's called the line of best fit. Yeah! And so this is called a residual right here. Residuals are actual minus predicted. And so the actual is going to be this point right here. That's what an actual is. The residual is the distance. And the predicted is everything on the line. So the actuals are the dots themselves. The residuals are the distance. Anything above the line has a positive residual. Anything below the line has a negative residual. And if something is on the line, it has a 0 residual because it didn't miss. Residual is how much you miss by. And you just heard about 15 minutes of lecture right there. So residuals are actual minus predicted. And in notation, the notation is E for residual equals actual, which is Y minus Y hat, which is predicted. And I'll color code these here too again. That's the notation, which is also good to know. The Y's are the actual values of Y, and the predicted comes from the line. The line makes predictions. It's called the line of predictions sometimes, or a predictive model. But this notation right here, and I'll disappear if you want to take a screenshot or write this down, But negative residuals are points that are below the line. Positive residuals are things that are above the line. The residual is the distance it is away. It can be negative or positive. And then anything that is on the line has a 0 residual because the actual is equal to the predicted. We could even do this right here by doing this and color coding it. The point is on the line, so it has no residual. The model did not miss it. So just for easy question right here, and let's get the answer right. All of the data points either touch the line or fall below it. No, they don't all fall below it. The line usually touches none of the points. No, it can touch some. The linear model usually passes through exactly half. What? Oh, well, let's see. I mean, it might touch a point. Once again, Brian's a little unhappy with my Pearson. It can touch some points, but the minimization of the sum of the squared error, I did mention that very briefly because when you have an error, it can be positive or negative. So we square it to make the errors positive, and that goes into more 320 understanding than 201. Well, all you're really trying to do is make the errors smaller, so you're trying to reduce or minimize the errors, which I mentioned there previously. The residuals are the y, the observed values, minus the y values that are predicted by the linear model. Does that sound accurate? What do you think? The residuals are the observed or the actual values minus the predicted values, true or false? The residuals are the observed, which are actual. So the residuals are the observed is another name for actuals, which is the y's, it mentioned the y's, from the predicted. The residuals are the actuals minus predicted, or observed minus predicted. I don't like to call it observed because I say residual wrap. Can't wrap. There's like, now you can do like AI wrapping and stuff. I wish I could. That is very true. Yeah, I mean, that's literally what it is. That's what a residual is. Least squares, they're going really technical in this first question. Least squares means the square of the largest residual is as small as it possible. No, it's not what least squares means. Okay, this is more technical stuff, which once again, if I say it's like super technical, it's not really test related. When we talk about least squares, if someone says to you it makes the least squares, this line right here would have points. And so the points are the actual observations, and the line is the predicted. And the line minimizes the squares. What do we mean by squares? If we were to draw the residual and then square it, that is a square right there. And then we'd square this. And the reason we square it is because some residuals are positive and some residuals are what? Like this one down here has a what residual, that line down there, that point down there. Some residuals are positive and some residuals are what? And I'm going to tell you a test question. Some residuals are positive and some residuals are what? So some residuals, sometimes the point is above the model, positive, and sometimes the point is below the model, negative. So if you were to sum the residuals, what would the sum of the residuals be? Because sometimes they're positive, sometimes they're negative. Like if you were to just sum the residuals, and this is like positive 4, this is negative 4, this is positive 1, and this is negative 1, the sum of the residuals would always be 0, exactly. But if you square them, they become positive. Does that make sense? That's why we do a sum of squared error, error being the residuals. So we get a quantity of the squared error. It's more 320ish now we're verging into because we don't really go into this detail on the test. But we square the residuals to make them positive, and then you get a sum of squared error to quantify how much error there is. So it kind of visually looks like this now because the error, the distance away, has been squared. And if you add up those squares, like if you miss by 5, which that big one over there is 5, it becomes 25. And if you miss by negative 4, it becomes 16. So squaring something makes it positive, and then you do a sum of the squared error to find out the quantity of error. And this line minimizes those squares. So we call it the least squares. Does that make sense? It makes the least squares because it's a squared error. So that's why it's called the least squares. So it tries to minimize the error or squared error, because either error or squared error, either one. This is false. The least squares means the sum of the squares of all residuals is minimized. First answer right there, exactly. And as you remember, I said the sum of squared error. That is called SSE, sum of squared error. Just think, what would we do to this error right here? What would you do to all these squares to figure out how much error there is? What them up. Since I've drawn all these squares, how would you figure out how much error there is? Because their errors, how far are they away? And I squared the errors. And then what would you do to figure out how much error there is? Add them up or sum them up. So it's called a sum of squared error. The sum of squared error, because you'll add those all up. Does that make sense theoretically? Like, then you'd be like, oh, there's this much error. I have a total amount of error of this. And that's the sum of the squared error. So hopefully seeing it visually kind of helps. That is what we call the sum of the squared error, and we minimize the sum of the squared error, which means least squares. So some tricky theoretical stuff, but that's good. I mean, I kind of like it a little bit more. It's a little more 320-ish, with a little heavy on the theory to start right there. We're going to go more practical in a lot of our test questions, like solve for this problem. But the theory is always helpful to understand how to work the problems and what we're doing. So now let's do another one here. Some of the residuals from a least squares linear model will be positive and some will be negative. You can view it right here. Now, I could go really technical on this, but does it look like some are positive and some are negative? What do you think, true or false? When you make a model, some residuals are positive and some residuals are negative. What do you think? Yeah, that's the way it works. Now, there is the possibility, and we got to be careful here because I don't know if they're going to go super technical. There is the possibility that all your residuals could be what? There is the alternative, which I don't know if they're going to go to this specific example. There is the possibility that all your residuals could be what? 0. Great job, Cameron, right there. More points in the chat. There's that theoretical possibility that if you have a perfect model, that there's no error. Now the sum of the squared error is 0. R squared is 1 because you've explained all the variation. More on that coming up here shortly. It's just correlation squared. So right here, we'll write that r squared, or r equals 1, so r squared is equal to 1 also, which is the percent of variation explained, a written question on the test. So they'll probably say true. Okay. No, it's true. Unless, yeah, I wish they'd put that one caveat in there. Least squares means that the sum of the squares of the residuals are minimized. Well, yeah, we just talked about that, so let's not go into too much more detail. Check out the previous. Wait, what? Wait, what did it say? Really? Least squares means that's. Didn't I literally say the sum of the squares of the residuals is minimized? It says that sum of. I said the sum of the squares. I literally said the sum of the squares, and it says that sum of the squares. And my brain was like, sum of the squares. So it's the sum of the squares of the residuals is minimized, not sum of the squares. Are they really? Boo, my Pearson. Put some L's in the chat, or F in the chat for my Pearson. I literally said the sum of the squares. And we reviewed it a moment ago, so don't get it wrong. Don't be like Brian. So, L/F. Okay, last question right here on this one. Oh my gosh, stop it. Stop telling me I got that wrong. We write y hat right here to denote the predicted value, and y notes the observed. I don't like to call it observed, but does that sound accurate to you? That y hat is the predicted and the observed is y. So we've got a lot of, like, just drawing this out and being able to write this out. Like, if you can recreate this graphic from memory, then you probably have a good understanding of like the actuals or the observed. They can also be called the observed value because they're the ones we see, the data points we see. The actual values of y are y. They're the y's. So they're the actuals and they're the dots. And then the predicted comes from the line. And then the residual is how much we miss by. So the recreation of this graphic right here can be very good for your knowledge. And does that sound true right there? Hey, Jackson, hope the semester's going well. Glad to see my... Not today, my Pearson, as we always say. It said the sum of the squares. It said the sum of the squares. And that is the predicted, and that is the observed. Another name for observed is actual, and I prefer to call it that. Okay, now we're on to the next one. We're going to get the homework done pretty quickly here. Might have time for a quiz question or two. Great to have everyone here. The equation right here. Now, here's the thing about the equation. Let's do a little lecture on this to start. You've probably heard, what is the equation of a line? You've probably heard this before. What is the equation of a line? You've probably heard this. I should plug in the other pen. No one knows? Oh no. What is the equation for a line? Kind of along y equals mx plus b right there, William, 100 points. So you've heard y equals mx plus b. In statistics, we do it a bit differently because we just want to be difficult. Not really, I'll explain why here in a moment. We do right here, oh, nice job. Emma's got some advanced stuff in there. Nice job, Emma. You're breaking it apart, I like that. We do y hat, meaning predicted value of y, equals to b0 plus b1x. Now you might say, why are you doing this? And let's kind of map what goes with what here. Obviously the y, which is the predicted value, is still the predicted value, but we put the hat on it to denote predicted. If it doesn't have a hat, it means actual. Take a look at where we were talking about that a moment ago. And then the b right here is the b0, which is the intercept. And then over here you see the m. Really? I've got the pink selected and it does that to me? Really? Is it in cahoots with my Pearson? And now we go over here and we do another color and we make this x right here, this. There we go. But the reason we do this notation is because we have a reason to do it. Because this is the first x in the model with the first coefficient. So if we add in more x's, we'd actually get plus b2 times x2. What if I add in another x, like x3? What is the coefficient of the first x? What is the coefficient of the third x in the model? So for 100 points, what is the coefficient of the third x? This is multiple regression now, which is not covered in this class, but it's why we do this notation. Boom, William got it right there. It's b sub 3 for the coefficient of the third x. So you can see right here, using this notation, we can just expand the model to include more x variables in the model. Great job right there, Cameron, also. So this is why we use this notation. The intercept does not have how many x's is the intercept associated with? It's associated with no x's. Also, it's when x is equal to 0. If you literally go in and plug in the value of 0 into x, 0 times something is what? 0 times something is what? If I do, b1 is just a number. It's 10, 15, it's just a number. It's 0, right? So that means this, it doesn't matter. It's gone. And now we have the value or the predicted value of y when x is equal to 0. And that's the interpretation of the intercept. The predicted value of y, we predict this value of y when x is equal to 0. And then what you have right here is you have the slope. Here we'll write underneath it slope, because that is the slope value. This is the intercept. And this is the predicted y. Predicted y. And that's just your x right there. And so we have everything noted right here. That's just x variable name, whatever your x variable name is. There we go. That is the regression model right there. The predicted value of y is equal to the intercept plus the slope times whatever the x variable is. And you can make predictions from that. I'll probably show some here in a moment as we keep working on that. But you can see how it relates to algebra, and the color coding right there might help you associate, like the intercept was b, now it's b0. So try to work this out. And the question asked us for a residual right here. So let's go look at it. So here we see, let me ask you this, what is the value of b0 in the model above? Just so you know how to read that, what is the value of b0? What is the value of b0? Take a look at the equation and just tell me what the value of b0 is. Just tell me what the value of b0 is. It's negative 6.24. And we're predicting the weight of something, and that's when it has a length of 0. This means the intercept is illogical, because can a newborn baby have a length of 0? Is that possible? Yes or no in the chat. Is a newborn baby having a length of 0? Like how long the newborn baby is. Can a newborn baby have a length of 0? No. So that means the intercept is kind of an extrapolation of the model outside the bounds of what is possible on the x and extrapolation, chapter 8 knowledge right there. So we don't have a logical interpretation to the intercept, but they want us to predict a newborn baby was this right here. Now this question is a little tricky. This is the first kind of, and I will say this, question that looks like a test question to me. So this question right here really looks like a test question. And to do this one, it all boils down to notation. So this really looks like a test question to me. Really does. I'm going to highlight some things, and I want you to tell me what these are in notation. You can say the color of it, and I want you to tell me what it is in notation. Okay, I've got 3 things highlighted. You can be like, yellow is this, purple, pink is this, blue is this. What are those things? Don't worry, I'll give some hints, but I'll also write the notation out for them. But I want you to think about what they are in terms of notation or things. So you have to be able to mark the notation for this. This is a question. This is one people get to test and say, I got no idea. Blue is the regression equation. Great job right there, William. So this is our y hat equals b0 plus b1x. So we know this is the quantity of b0, of b1. We know that's the quantity of x. X is length. And then we know this is the value of b0, and this is the predicted value of y. We are predicting weight. Anything else? A newborn baby is this long. Like you measured the baby. You said, okay, the newborn baby is this long. That is its value of what? A newborn baby is this long. That is its value of what? They are the observed. You could phrase it that way. One is the observed this, the other is the observed this. You're on the right track there, William. One is the observed this, and the other is the observed this. You're on the right track. Yeah, you can call it x1, because I called it x1 a moment ago. Usually in simple regression, when there's only one x, we don't actually call it x1, we usually call it x. But it is x1 because there is only one x in the model, so it is the x in the model. So that is x right there. X equals 48, and then y equals this right here. Now you have to know one last equation to solve this, because it says, what is the residual? Residual equals, I'm just writing the other notation, actual minus predicted. Residual equals actual minus predicted. And you are given both of these formulas on the test. You're given all of these formulas right here. I don't think we write it as R equals AP, because you should know the notation. E for residual equals actual, which is the y value, minus predicted. So think about this. What are we going to do? And I've got it color-coded to help out with the value of 48. We're going to what it to the model. We're going to what the value of 48 right here. So I've got it kind of color-coded out for you to see what to do, and helping with hints on how to do it. Plug it in. And when we plug it into the model, it'll give us a what from the model, because the model makes these. Plugging it in will make and think of a p word from the model. Plugging it into the model will give us a what from the model. So plugging in that value, all I'm doing is taking that 48 right there and plugging it in 48 times, because that's the x value we're using. So it's not the actual. Good answer. It's not going to give the actual, though. It'll give a what? Not going to give the actual. The model gives the what value. The model doesn't give the actual. Look, you see, I'm clicking the buttons. The model gives the predicted, because the baby actually weighs 3, but it was predicted to weigh 2.24, 2.222. So that means we would have right here 2.22, and it would be, the prediction is right here. Oh, so this is the prediction, and then the baby actually weighs, let me do a thing for this. Am I blocking? I'm not blocking it, good. So it actually weighs 3. Can anyone tell me the mathematics that we need to do, a different color code, to find the residual? What math would you do to find the residual now? Because we predicted 2.22. We predicted 2.22. So, but it actually weighs 3. Bingo. Actual minus predicted. And you can tell it's positive because the baby weighed more than it was predicted to weigh. Does that make sense? So when a residual is positive, also on the test, when a residual is positive, the actual is higher than the predicted. Positive residuals mean above the line because the actual is higher, like where are the dots respective to the line. So a positive residual means the actuals are above the line. A negative residual means the actuals are below the prediction. So the answer is going to be 0.78. Does that make sense? This is a really good question, And if you know how to solve these and you know the notation, they're pretty easy, but it's one of the ones people get to on the test and they say, how in the world do I do this? Is that enough decimals, my Pearson? 3 decimals? Really? 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 Is it 1.77? Or did I make an error? Because 48, let me plug 48 in again. Let me check my work, because I feel like something's a little bit off. I don't want to use my second attempt. Or it really just wants that 7/8, doesn't it? If you got it wrong because you entered in 0.78 and my Pearson was mean to you and it said no, just let me know. I'll fix it. Or like if you're in my section. That's ridiculous. Come on, it's 0.78 for all intents and purposes. Should have a little leeway. What does this say about them? The newborn baby weighs this much more than the predicted. So remember, we are above the line because the residual is positive. So really good question right there. That is probably the best test question I've seen so far. It's also one of the toughest ones, but it's very math-based, and it's understanding how to use the equations and what they mean and mark notation. So notation's going to be huge. Question number 4, here we go. Carry those decimals, everybody. How are people doing? Are people getting hundreds so far on this? You're free to say if you want. And great job on the test, everyone. Just the average right here is amazing. I had a student one time, they were salutatorian of their class, and they came to me so scared because they said, Brian, I made a C- on test 1. They said, how is this possible? I'm just not getting it. I said, everyone has a bad test once in a while. And they're like, but no, I studied, and we looked, and every question they missed, they're like, oh, I second-guessed that, I second-guessed that, I second-guessed that. And I was like, you're probably going to do great on test 2. They made like a 95 on test 2 and 95 on test 3 in the class. So just keep working hard. Don't get discouraged. Even if you I have people make like 93s, and they're like, oh, I can't believe I made a 93. And I'm like, they're like, how did I miss these things? I'm like, hundreds are hard to get. I don't have 100 right now either on this. Determine if the statement below is true or false. If correlation between two values is positive, the slope of the linear model will be positive. If I ever feel anything, no, well, yeah, don't worry. Just don't worry. We all, you know what? Who's ever, really quick before we answer, this is true, and I'll show why. That's true. Does anyone ever do weightlifting? And like, if you were to never fail at a set, if you like went to lift weights, and that's why you bring a friend or a spot, like, and you were to lift weights and never fail, like never do it. Now don't push yourself too hard. I do kinda. So you know what it's like to fail then. And it should inspire you. You don't, like, we look at failure and we have to say, like, this is where I can improve. It becomes a, you know, like, how do I do better next time? And don't let it knock you down, though. If it knocks you down, just get right back up and be like, psh, I got this. And that's what my student did right there. Failure only allows for success. It's from the Batman movie. What's his name? Alfred says it to Bruce. He goes, why do we get knocked down, Master Bruce? He's like, so we can learn to pick ourselves back up. And so right there, failure only allows for success. So don't worry. I failed a lot of tests in school. Don't fail tests for fun. The correlation coefficient indicates the what? This kind of chapter 6 review. Correlation, positive or negative, indicates what of the linear association. Think of a D word. So it just said if correlation is positive, the slope will be positive, because correlation indicates the what of a relationship, the plus or minus. Literally, it indicates this, as I mark the next question right here. Correlation being positive or negative indicates the direction. Great job right there. So correlation being positive or negative indicates the direction. So it indicates the direction of the linear relationship, and we're fitting a line to the data now, so there we go. So if the correlation is positive, then the slope must be positive. And there's actually ways to calculate, what did it say? I think true was down there last time. There we go. I think it moves to true false. Be very careful. I'm just missing everything today. Disk drives have gotten larger and larger and larger. So we're going to look at the size of a disk drive, and we're going to look at the price right here. Now, if you look at this model right here, you'll notice it gives you a lot of summary statistics, but it also gives you the data. Now, the number one thing to do is going to be to put it into jump. So let's get jump going right here. Right back. No, William. Oh my gosh. Some points. Thank you for that right there. Man, that would have been awesome if the rest of the stream no one was here and I just did that and I had muted myself. I hit the mute button over there. Okay, let's repeat it again. You ready? Here we go, from start to finish. So inside of Jump, you want to go inside of Jump and go to File, New, Data Table. File, New, Data Table. File, New, Data Table. File, New Data Table opens up a new data table where we're going to paste our data. When you go to paste your data, click the button here to open up your data. Once you've done this, you'll see an option to copy to clipboard right here. With the copy to clipboard option, make sure to hit Control-C on a PC or Command-C on a Mac. So I'm hitting Control-C, you'll hit Command-C if you're on a Mac, and then click Done. It's now in the clipboard. With the data in the clipboard, go ahead and close out those windows, and now go back to Jump, and inside of Jump, you want to know if you have column names or don't have column names. This choice right here is very key, and I believe there was names of the columns at the top of that data set. Since there was names of the columns, I'm going to go to Edit, Paste with Column Names. If you choose the wrong one right here, or just click Control-V or Command-V, it'll only paste without column names. So make sure when you paste with column names, you see the column names at the top. Notice at the very top of the data, there's a name of a column. If you just regular pasted, it's going to be wrong and put the column names there. This is incorrect and treats the data as categorical. If you do this, the problem won't work. It'll show a mosaic plot and it'll be wrong and it won't work. That's to repeat. So don't do this. Make sure to paste with column names for this data. And if you make an error, start over with File, New Data Table. File, New Data Table, and paste with column names. Quick shortcut for that is Control-Shift-V or Command-Shift-V, quick shortcut. Or edit, paste to it. Anyways, you should have your data in here by now. And now we want to predict the price of a hard drive with the explanatory variable being the capacity. Now, what do X's do? X's like to what? X's like to what things? Think of another X word. It's not really an X word. But think of an X's like to what something? X's seek to what something? Like describe, interpret, understand, explain. Points right there, explain. X's explain. Now, if you're interested in something, you usually ask someone what three-letter word, or you can make it a one-letter word. If you're interested in something called the variable of interest, if you're interested in something, you usually ask somebody what one-letter word. X. Now is an X. We're going to make that a MuBot quote. So remember William right here. So if you're interested in something, you usually ask someone why. Why is this going on? That is the Y variable of interest. We call it the Y variable of interest. Your MuBot quote, William, is quote 396. So whenever you want to see your MuBot quotes from all over the semester, remember, you can just do quote 396, and MuBot will tell you that MuBot quote right there in the MuBot Mind for Forever. So with this right here, we know what an X variable is. It's an explanatory. Make sure to do quote, exclamation mark, quote, and then 395 if you want to see 395. I can't remember, was it a Bailey quote? But go ahead and do that right there. And oh, thank you so much, Hannah Montana. And we'll keep trying to add more quotes every semester. Man, we'll get up 1,000. I thought it was a lot when we got 100. Now we have almost 400 quotes. But it's things people say that I like, make me smile, and then we remember them. And then people come in here and like Andrew Wynn still knows Andrew Wynn does the best. He's got a quote in there. So with this, we're going to go to Analyze Fit Y by X. I'll pause right here so you can also do it. Analyze Fit Y by X. I had a spacebar quote. Yeah. Oh, no, that's a joke. That's a joke. Do exclamation mark joke. It might be joke 10 or so. Probably around joke 10. Shreya, good to see you, Shreya. We're turning right on. Shreya, 100 points for Shreya being here. We're going to predict the price, explaining it with this. So analyze fit Y by X. Please tell me if I go too quickly. But analyze fit Y by X right there. Here we go. And there's a bit of a problem with this. What are the conditions for correlation? QQ, something, 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 something. What are the conditions for correlation? On time. Oh, we need to go a little quicker so we can finish it. QQ, what? QQ, straight enough, no outliers. So the problem is this model doesn't look to be completely linear. To fit the line, go to fit line right here, and that will fit the line to the data, and there's the linear relationship. And the line doesn't really pass through the middle of it. What we could do, and this is not part of this class, is fit a polynomial model, and the polynomial model actually does better and goes through the data. So this is more, if you look at this model right here, it's more of a polynomial relationship than it is a linear relationship, and they're probably going to get to that. Good to see you here, Drew. Excellent work, 100 points. So this is more of a polynomial, not a linear relationship. So let's see if they cover that right here. What is the slope estimate right here, which is B1? So you had to have made your model. I'm going to remove the polynomial model here. We don't need a polynomial fit. I'm just going to remove it. Don't do it because it's just going to add more output you don't need to see for the moment. The slope, just give me the first 3 numbers of the slope. Go up here to fit line to the model right here. I'll show the screen right there. It's the red arrow fit line, Cameron. Thank you for asking. The red arrow fit line. Brian got a little ADD. Red arrow fit line. So once you've made the fit y by x, red arrow fit line. And then what is the quantity of the slope? Remember, y hat equals b0 plus b1x. So what is the quantity of the slope? Y hat equals b0 plus b1x. You're welcome. Thank you for asking. Please ask at any time. If I go too quickly or don't make my steps clear, let me know. It is recorded, but you're here, so you get to ask. And you get points for asking. Here's the regression equation right down here. So what is the quantity of the slope? Remember, y hat, predicted price, equals b0 plus b1 x. X is the x variable name right there. So y hat, predicted price of a hard drive, is equal to negative 298, which is the quantity of the intercept, plus 142. What's the quantity of the slope? The quantity of the slope is that quantity right there, because exactly. You can even copy paste it from the output. You can go right here, copy this over here, and round to 2 decimals, and you should be good. If it does a rounding error, let me know, because I've seen weird things. What does the slope mean? It's for each additional terabyte, we expect the price of a hard drive to increase by this amount. Great job, Emma and William right there. So it's the indicated, let's see what it says right here. It indicates an additional capacity in terabytes for each additional, no. It indicates the additional, it indicates the price of hard, no. It indicates the additional price in dollars for each additional terabyte. Notice how it's connected to the X variable. So it's like every time we see a terabyte larger hard drive, we would expect the price to be this much higher. So it's the indication of the differences in hard drives price based on terabytes right there. What is the value of the intercept? Well, that's going to be the other value right here, the negative. Don't forget the negative. That's one of those things that's not a rounding issue. It's a very important, huge error if you don't put the negative in there. So make sure to grab the negative out of the output, or just write it. But that negative is so important. That's the quantity of B0. Remember, this is the y hat value, which is the predicted value of y hat equals the next value after B0 plus is B1. And then the next thing is the name of the X variable right there. And that is the equation you see under linear fit right there. But your values will be in the order of predicted Y value equals to intercept plus the slope coefficient times the X variable name, which is where you plug in X. What does this mean? It means a 0 terabyte hard drive. What does that mean for your hard drive if it has 0 terabytes? A 0 terabyte hard drive is expected to be about negative $298.2 on average. A 0 terabyte hard drive is expected to be about negative $298. A 0 terabyte. I have 0 terabytes. My hard drive has 0 terabytes. What's that mean? There we go. It's going to be C or D. You can see it indicates the price for a hard drive with no capacity. It is meaningless because the hard drive has no capacity. That hard drive doesn't exist and shouldn't be interpreted. That's a good one right there. Write down the equations. So now we're just plugging in the numbers. So 14221, and then the slope is negative 298.20. This is exactly what was in the jump output. As long as we did that, not worth getting. What would you predict for the price of a 20 terabyte hard drive? So what do we simply do to this value of X right here? What do we do with this value of X right here? Because that's the capacity. What would you predict for the price of a 20 terabyte hard drive, which is its capacity? Now, all we're going to do is do what right here? Take that 20, because that's the capacity, and just plug it into the equation. Plug it in and get the value, and this is the predicted value. Like it says, what would you predict? And then we're going to subtract from that 298.20. I don't know if it's going to mention the linearity, round to the nearest cent. Was that not any sense on that? Sure, it worked. You found out that the 20 terabyte hard drive is actually this. Ooh. So think about this. It cost more or less than it was predicted to be. Be careful. Did the hard drive cost more or less than it was predicted to be? So here's the line of predicted. Did the hard drive cost more or less? Did it cost more or less? It costs less, right? This question seems kind of old, right? It costs less because it was predicted to be 25,546, and it cost 2,530. Now think it. No worries, Drew. Let's try 1,000 points. Good job being here and good practice. We're gonna throw you some big points. Don't worry about getting it wrong. Get it wrong to get it right. Can anyone quickly calculate the residual and then explain to me what the residual is from your knowledge of right now? Think about this. It was predicted to be 2546. It's 2530. So the residual is what? Just think about what the residual means, that it was this much less than it was predicted to be, and you can do the residual by this by looking at the numbers. Anyone tell me the residual by looking at that and being like, it was predicted to be 2546, it's actually 2530. Think about this distance right here. Well, Emma, you're so close. Emma, you're so close. Remember, it's down here though. You're so close, Emma. Remember, it was predicted up here, but it's down here. Boom, you got it. Great job, Emma, right there. Is it a good buy? Yes, because it was predicted to be more. Because the actual price is less than the predicted. That should be right there. So we actually calculated the residual for that. How much more or less would you pay compared to what the model is? Oh, so this is 16. So it's actually doing the residual now, less. So we're actually thinking ahead on the questions. Does the model overestimate or underestimate the price? So here's the model. Here's the thing. Is the model overestimating, or is it the model? This is the model. This is the line. It's overestimating right there. Does that make sense? So here's the point, and here's the model, and it overestimates. This was a really good question. Should be the end of it, right? Oh my gosh, really? Longest question ever. The correlation is very high. Does this mean the model is accurate? No, we showed it has a nonlinear relationship. The model is accurate because it's very high correlation. The model is not accurate because no. Is it going to be the outlier? Sigh. I didn't really, I love that question until that last one. We got a lot of ways to analyze this stuff. There's a lot of ways to do it with looking at the residuals and making a residual plot. And this is actually an outlier, and actually that's more of an extreme outlier than the other one. So we can make a residual plot in the curved pattern. The curved pattern is really evident in the residual. You see how this has a curve right here? It goes like swoop like that. So the curved pattern in the residual plot shows that the linear model is not appropriate. We should maybe go for a polynomial model. That is the real answer from a statistician as I blur out of existence. And yeah, there's the residuals have, they're normally distributed. I like that. But the real answer here is the curved pattern. And there's some light outliers from the linear model, but 97.5 is really good R-squared. Anthony, do we have any other quick ones we can do? What conditions should you make sure that your linear model is appropriate? Q straight enough, no outliers. And the last condition is plot doesn't thicken. I like to say plot doesn't thicken because we don't want it to thicken. So Q straight enough, no outliers, plot doesn't thicken. And for 1,000 points, Brian is talking about the what plot's not thickening. When I say Q straight enough, no outliers, plot doesn't thicken, we're looking at the what plot not thickening. I actually went and checked it for the last question. Q straight enough, no outliers, plot doesn't thicken. What plot are we looking at to check certain things, which I just did over there. Q straight enough, no outliers, plot doesn't thicken. Q straight enough, no outliers, plot doesn't thicken. You keep hearing that until we get the right answer. What plot is it? Not the scatter plot. I mean, it isn't kind of a scatter plot. It's called a what plot? We plot them. The residual plot, the residual plots, they're diagnostics. The residual plots right here, the residual plots. So that's what we're actually looking at right there. And great job, everybody. Really good practice. The residual plots we don't want to thicken. So 1,000 points again. We'll throw some more 1,000 points bonuses. Q straight enough, no outliers, plot doesn't thicken. The residual plots should have homoscedasticity, not heteroscedasticity, called equal variance sometimes in other classes. We're going to speed run a few others because we're starting class soon here. If our data in a scatter plot is straight enough, we can model our data with a line. Sure. Yeah. That's the whole point of a straight enough condition. I'm going to lose my things. Interpret the R-squared. Length percent of the variation in y is explained by the variation in x. So how do you get R-squared? Anyone got any crazy ideas on how to get R-squared? We can probably do most of this. I'm going to do it a little quickly, though. How do we get R-squared from R? Think about R-squared, which is the percent of variation in y explained by the variation in x. How do we get R-squared? Oh my gosh. We square it. And we're probably trying to understand sales. So the value of R-squared is this, which is the percent of variation in sales that can be accounted for by the regression line. The way they phrase this, I always hate, by the regression line of sales on, yeah, I think that's the right order. And then you always multiply it by 100. I don't like reading their interpretations. How many decimals? 1 decimal. So that's right? Checking answer. Nice work. Length percent of the variation y is explained by the variation x, R-squared. The drive with the capacity of this contributes most to the sums of squared errors. So which one has the biggest residual? And we can't copy it? Oh, well, this one goes against the model. Oh, we're just looking at residuals. It's the one with 4. This is just the biggest residual. So just they already told you the residual. A negative residual means that the drive costs less than what we might expect from the model, and its capacity, because that's predicting it. A residual of this indicates a drive that costs $22 less than expected. There we go. We just had one big problem right there. Sorry I speed ran the last few things right there, but interpretations of R-squared will be on the test. If you notice, that was then covering residuals again, like what does this residual mean? It means that we are predicting the price, so it costs this much less based on the capacity. And what does a negative residual mean? It means it's below the model. The model is the prediction. How do people feel? We kind of did a lot of the lecture today. Are people feeling pretty good about regression? If you were here for office hours, you probably understand a lot of the equations pretty well. You probably understand the concepts of residuals, gaining knowledge. That's the point. It's all about hearing things multiple times. We're going to take a quick break here. Until next time, let me put an outro on. Where's my outros? Closings. Here we go right here. Bye for now, everyone. Bye. We've almost got these new intros ready. We're almost there.
This has been going for like 20 hours. This ends now.